Let me ask you something about the last news story you read. Maybe it was this morning, scrolling through your feed.
Okay.
Did you click it because it was, genuinely important? Or did you click it because it made you angry?
That's a sharp question.
And here's the really scary part.
Mm-hmm.
Can you actually tell the difference anymore between a real event and something just manufactured to steal your attention?
It's the defining question of our time, isn't it? We are absolutely drowning in information, but starving for real context.
You really are. And today we're going to look at the playbook that explains exactly how that manipulation works. But first, enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis.
That's right. More than just a summary, which we do include, this feature examines how an author shapes an argument, builds influence, and, well, earns or loses your trust.
We're giving you the tools to read with sharper insight. Should you read this book, this should help. It's also, I think, excellent for aspiring writers. If you find this expanded format valuable, we'd love to hear from you. Your feedback helps guide our future content.
And just for full transparency, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's Notebook LM for a deeper, more dynamic book analysis.
So let's get into it. The book is Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. And honestly, reading it feels like, like finding a confession letter at a crime scene.
That is the perfect way to put it. To really get the book, you have to go back to the time it was written. We're talking the early 2010s.
The blog boom.
The blog boom, exactly. The peak of Gawker, the Huffington Post, all these sites scrambling for eyeballs before the big social media algorithms really took charge.
And Holiday wasn't just a spectator in all this. He calls himself a media manipulator. He was working for clients like...
Well, like American Apparel.
We all remember those ads.
And the infamous Tucker Max.
And his mission in this book is... It's really twofold. On one hand, yes, he's telling these wild stories, showing you how he created controversy out of thin air. But the bigger mission, and this is what the analysis really digs into, is exposing the system itself.
So he's saying it's not a bug, it's a feature. Precisely. He's arguing the whole digital ecosystem is built for propaganda, not for truth.
Okay, so let's get into the main mechanism he talks about. He calls it trading up the chain. This is the engine of the whole thing. How does it work?
Think of it like a ladder, a media ladder. Holiday explains that the big outlets, CNN, the New York Times, they need to fill so much space.
Right.
But they can't be everywhere. So they watch the mid-tier blogs for stories. And those mid-tier blogs, they're watching the tiny, tiny blogs at the very bottom.
So Holiday's whole strategy was to start at the bottom.
That's the weak point. That's the entry. The analysis breaks it down.
Okay.
Step 1. You plant a fake tip or a sketchy story on a small blog. These sites are desperate for anything. They have no budget to check facts.
They just run it.
They just run it. Then, step 2, a mid-tier site sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And their justification is, hey, someone else already reported it.
And just like that, it gets a thin layer of legitimacy. It's not a rumor anymore, it's a report.
Correct. And then step 3, once it gets a little traction, a little traffic, the major media outlets cover it. By the time it's on national news, it looks completely real. But the whole thing was started by one person.
The book calls that a self-validating loop. That's terrifying. Each step makes it seem more real, even though the foundation is just fiction.
And Holiday is brutally honest about doing this himself.
Okay.
Over and over, he talks about seeding fake emails to reporters, creating fake online personas. He even vandalized his own clients' billboards to create a story.
Wait, hold on. He vandalized his own billboards?
Yes. For a Tucker Max movie, he went out, spray-painted the billboards, then sent anonymous photos to blogs pretending to be outraged.
No way.
The blogs ran the story about the vandalism, people got angry, and suddenly everyone was talking about the movie poster he wanted them to see in the first place.
He literally manufactured the crime to sell the product.
He also mentions staging fake protests, what we now call AstroTurf campaigns, creating this complete distortion field where you can't tell what's real and what's just marketing.
It's wild. Which brings us to a huge analytical point, ethos, the credibility of the person speaking. I mean, the book's title is Trust Me, I'm Lying. Why on earth should we believe a single word he says?
It's a massive paradox, isn't it? The analysis frames Holiday as a kind of cynical Virgil.
I love that, like Dante's guide through hell.
That's the idea. He's guiding us through this media inferno that he personally helped build. And the rhetorical strategy behind it is what's called radical self-incrimination.
Okay, so how does that work?
By admitting to all the dirty tricks, the fake memos, the lies, he actually builds credibility for his diagnosis of the system. His argument becomes, look how broken this all is. I know because I'm the one who broke it.
So the worse he makes himself look.
The more convincing his argument becomes. It's like weaponizing his own bad faith. He's saying, you have to believe me when I say the news is broken because I'm one of the people who profits from breaking it.
There's also this shift in the book's tone, right?
Mm.
He starts as this confessor, almost bragging.
He does. He starts as the confessor insider, but then he pivots. He tries to become the whistleblower moralist. He starts talking about his conscience, about how he wants to save us from the monster he created.
And do we buy that? Is that just one more manipulation?
That's the million-dollar question. The analysis points to this as a potential weakness. Is he a hero, or is this just cynicism rebranded as a new product? But what his insider status does let him do is make a powerful point about inequality.
Inequality in what sense?
Well, ordinary people, most of us, we go online assuming good faith. We assume a news story is a news story. But the professionals, the manipulators, they're playing by a completely different set of rules. They see the audience as traffic to be farmed, not as citizens to be informed.
That is a very heavy realization. Okay, before we go deeper into the economics of this broken system, let's just take a brief pause for mindful moments. Check out our YouTube channel offering AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques. It's all about inspiring reflection and rational thought.
It's a great resource for staying sharp in this age of constant noise.
Absolutely. So, we've talked about ethos, the messenger. Now let's get to logos, the logic of the system itself. Holiday isn't just saying bloggers are lazy. He's arguing there's a deep structural reason lies travel faster than truth.
Right. This is the difference between knowing that something happens versus understanding why. And the why comes down to one thing: the economics of attention.
Follow the money.
Always. In that era, and it's still largely true today, writers were paid by the click, or they had these insane quotas, 10, 12 posts a day.
Impossible.
So speed and page views are the only things that matter. If you take 3 hours to verify a story, someone else has already posted it and gotten all the traffic. It's better to be first and wrong than second and right.
And the corrections they post later.
They're useless. The analysis makes a great point here. Nobody clicks on a correction. It doesn't get traffic. Sometimes it even reinforces the original lie in people's minds. So the system has a rational bias toward error.
There's the psychological piece, too. The book brings up Jonah Berger's research on what makes things go viral.
Yes, and this is so important. Berger found that high arousal emotions are what trigger us to share. Things like anger, awe, anxiety, they create a physical need to do something, like click share.
What about something like sadness?
Sadness is a low arousal emotion. It makes you turn inward. You don't share nuanced, sad stories. You share the thing that makes your blood boil.
So if you're a publisher trying to survive, you almost have to publish content that makes people angry or scared.
That's Holiday's argument. The system is rationally biased towards outrage. And this is how pseudo-events become our public reality.
Define that term for us, a pseudo-event.
It's an event that was created for the sole purpose of being covered by the media. A staged protest, for example. It's not organic, but once the media covers it, it becomes a real event. People react to it, politicians have to comment on it.
And the line between real and staged just dissolves completely.
It just disappears.
Okay, that brings us to the third part of the analysis, pathos. The emotional toll this takes on us, the readers. Because this isn't just theory. This stuff messes with your head.
It really does. And the analysis suggests that Holiday's goal here isn't to entertain you. It's to inflict a kind of moral injury.
Moral injury. That sounds intense.
He wants to unsettle you so deeply that you can never go back to being a naive consumer of information. He wants to create what the analysis calls epistemic vertigo.
Ooh, I like that phrase, epistemic vertigo. The dizziness you feel when you don't know what's real anymore.
That's it exactly.
Yeah.
That constant low-grade anxiety where you can no longer tell a real grassroots movement from a corporate marketing campaign. That feeling is the point. He wants to destroy your naive trust for your own good.
And there's a really dark side to this with how people are treated online, right? The book mentions disgust at cruelty.
Yes. To get those clicks, the machine always needs a villain or a freak. The analysis highlights how much of clickbait culture relies on humiliating people, dehumanizing them, so that the rest of us can feel superior and click the link. It's a machine that runs on destroying reputations.
It just brings home the civic implications, that inequality of voice we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. You have the manipulators and the manipulated. But the analysis also points out a potential upside, a sort of brotherhood in being fooled.
How so?
Well, if we all realize that we're vulnerable, that we're all being played by the same system, maybe that can spark a collective demand for something better. We stop fighting each other over the manufactured outrage and start fighting the system itself.
That's the hope, I guess. But it all feels so overwhelming. So what do we do with this? We can't just unplug from the world forever.
No, and Holiday doesn't suggest that. Instead, the analysis offers what it calls a critical reader's toolkit, a set of practical habits.
Okay, let's hear them. What's habit number 1?
Check the origin. When you see a story that makes you furious, stop. Ask yourself, who ran this story first?
Trace it back down the chain.
Exactly. Did it start with real reporting, or is everyone just citing some random blog that cites a tweet? And then ask the most important question, who benefits if I believe this?
That's a powerful one. Who benefits? What's next?
Look for corrections. And more importantly, look at how they're handled. If an outlet runs a giant screaming headline, but the correction is a tiny footnote a week later,
That tells you everything.
tells you their entire system is biased toward error. Don't trade them.
It's about seeing what isn't there as much as what is.
And the last one is counter-rhetoric. Value slowness.
Slowness. In a world built for speed.
The hot take is the enemy of truth. The analysis really encourages us to value slow, sourced reflection. When something big happens, just wait. Wait for the facts to come out. Reward accuracy, not speed.
We have to change our own behavior. If we stop clicking the rage bait, they'll stop making it.
Theoretically. Holiday's a bit more cynical. He thinks the system is so powerful it takes a massive conscious effort from all of us to even begin to resist it.
It is a truly fascinating and, yeah, a pretty terrifying look under the hood of our media world.
It is. And I think the final provocative thought, the real takeaway, is that this isn't about a few bad actors. It's not just about one manipulator. It's about an incentive structure that shapes our collective moral output.
So if you build a machine that rewards lies...
You're going to get a lot of liars. So the question becomes, can we demand better systems? Or are we just going to keep trading up the chain until the idea of shared reality just falls apart?
That is the question to carry with you. When you open your phone next, look at that feed and ask yourself, is this real or is this just business?
And remember that skepticism is your best defense.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think rationally.
Goodbye, everyone.
See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.